The year is 1990. Perched precariously on a windswept cliff overlooking the treacherous coast of Cornwall, England, stands Whisperwind Manse. A local legend for generations, the manor is known not for its grandeur, but for its unsettling architectural anomalies. Windows that don't align, doors that open to bricked-up passages, and staircases that lead nowhere. It has been abandoned for over a century since the disappearance of the Blackwood family, its last inhabitants, who were said to be obsessed with reshaping reality within its walls. Locals whisper that the house is a living entity, constantly shifting and reforming, and that on stormy nights, the very structure groans and creaks with a horrifying, unnatural silence. A profound lack of sound that devours whispers, screams, and sanity alike. They say if you listen closely, you might hear the faint, disembodied tapping from within its walls, a desperate Morse code for help from those lost in its shifting labyrinth. Our story begins with Dr. Elias Thorne, a driven but emotionally detached architect, specializing in historical structural anomalies. Elias isn't interested in ghosts. He's on the trail of a revolutionary, but deeply unsettling architectural theory developed by his estranged grandfather, Professor Alastair Thorne, who vanished mysteriously 30 years ago while studying Whisperwind Manse. Alastair's last known research notes spoke of non-Euclidean spaces and dimensional rifts within the manor's unique design. Elias's last communication from Alastair, a series of frantic, garbled voicemails left on an old answering machine, were filled with static, incomprehensible spatial descriptions and a terrified, whispered phrase. The house is not just moving, it's absorbing the very geometry of things, it's trapping, and the void of space, it's not just emptiness. It's a living entity, a sentient hunger for form. Elias arrives in Porthglen, a small, isolated fishing village clinging to the cliffs beneath the manse. The few inhabitants are weathered and wary, their eyes holding a peculiar, distant gaze, as if constantly scanning for something unseen. The old lighthouse keeper, Finn O'Malley, a man whose face is as craggy as the rocks below, watches Elias with a grim intensity. That place, Whisperwind, it doesn't just hold secrets, lad. It twists them. Your grandfather, he tried to map its madness. And the silence, it doesn't just quiet. It claims the very shape of things. The legend of Whisperwind Manse dates back to its mysterious construction in the 18th century. It was rumored to be built on an ancient, unholy ground, and its architect, driven by unknown forces, intentionally incorporated impossible angles and shifting walls, a design meant to break the conventional perception of space. The Blackwood family, the last inhabitants, were said to have become obsessed with unlocking its deeper secrets, believing they could fold reality within its walls. Their disappearance was attributed to their being absorbed into the very fabric of the house. The manor wasn't just abandoned. It was a prison of dislocated dimensions. Elias, a man of empirical design, initially dismisses these supernatural tales as local folklore. But Alastair's garbled messages, mentioning absorbing geometry and trapping, resonate with his knowledge of theoretical physics. He finds Alastair's old surveying equipment, left behind in his abandoned research hut near the cliffs. Inside, Elias finds a series of distorted topographical maps of the manse, showing impossible internal layouts and a peculiar, repeating fractal pattern. Tucked beneath the maps is Alastair's last, hastily scrawled note. The house, its spatial resonance, the frequency, it's wrong. It binds us. It calls. And the void of space, it's not just emptiness. It's a living entity, a sentient hunger for dimension. Determined, Elias makes his way to Whisperwind Manse. The heavy iron gates, long rusted shut, groan open with an unsettling screech. The sprawling, Gothic structure looms before him, its broken windows like empty, staring eyes. The air grows heavy, cold, and strangely still, even the roar of the ocean falling silent. A faint, almost imperceptible groaning and creaking permeates the air, a low, resonant vibration that seems to emanate from the very stone of the building, a chilling, structural lament. As Elias steps through the shattered main doors, the cold intensifies, and the whispers begin. Faint at first, then growing louder, the disembodied voices swirl around him. Fragmented pleas, desperate cries for my way out. Chilling, silent screams, and repeated, monotonous phrases like lost, gone, forgotten, trapped. The void hungers for another form. They are the spectral echoes of Whisperwind's former inhabitants, trapped in an endless loop of their final, dislocated moments, orchestrated by the faint, sinister groaning. Then, the whispers coalesce, focusing on a single, clear, terrifying sound. The distinct, grinding sound of stone shifting against stone, vibrating faster and faster. And within this sound, a distinct, melodious voice, strangely calm amidst the chaos, begins to speak. Welcome, Dr. Thorne. Your mind, it is exquisitely ordered. And you have come to feed the void of space. The main hall, once a place of grand gatherings, now stretches before him like a gaping maw. The walls seem to subtly undulate. The floor subtly slopes, defying architectural logic. Elias stands transfixed, his scientific training battling with the undeniable horror. The whispers were not just memories. They were an active, malevolent force, and they had just spoken to him directly. The search for Alistair had just dragged Elias Thorne into the terrifying, living nightmare of Whisperwind Manse, a place where the void of space wasn't just an absence, but a conscious, hungry entity. And he knew, with chilling certainty, that his sense of reality was its next meal. The chilling, disembodied voice from Whisperwind Manse sent a cold dread through Elias. Welcome, Dr. Thorne. Your mind, it is exquisitely ordered. And you have come to feed the void of space. His scientific mind reeled, struggling to reconcile the impossible with the undeniable. The whispers were not mere echoes. They were an intelligent, malevolent presence, orchestrated by the pervasive groaning and creaking of the shifting manor itself. To find Alistair, Elias had to understand the true nature of this void of space and the insidious spatial resonance that fueled it. Elias retreated slightly, his hand on the cold, damp stone of the shifting wall. The pervasive groaning deepened, wrapping around him like a suffocating shroud. He remembered Alistair's note about the void's spatial resonance and the frequency that bound them. This wasn't just a haunting. It was a deliberate, controlled, dimensional trap. He pulled out Alistair's research tablet, salvaged from the hut. Alistair had been meticulously tracking unusual gravimetric fluctuations within the manse, spikes that coincided with its structural anomalies. He theorized that Whisperwind, built on a unique geological anomaly, somehow acted as a dimensional nexus, drawing in and amplifying not just space, but the very fabric of reality itself. The original architect, he suspected, had stumbled upon, or perhaps intentionally cultivated, a method to harness this. Alistair's notes also contained crude diagrams of a spatial distortion engine, a device he believed was hidden within the Manse's deeper foundations. It was a complex array of non-Euclidean geometry and oscillating crystal matrices, designed to generate a specific spatial frequency. Alastair speculated that this device amplified and broadcasted the shifting throughout the manor, and perhaps even beyond, creating its shifting labyrinth. Elias began to explore the manor, guided by the intensifying groaning and the chilling whispers. The building was a labyrinth of decaying corridors that constantly reconfigured themselves, doors that led to new, impossible spaces, and staircases that seemed to change their destination with each ascent. Each step echoed ominously in the oppressive silence, punctuated by the spectral pleas for my way out and fragments of silent screams. The air grew colder, and a faint, coppery scent, like old blood and damp stone, permeated the atmosphere. As he attempted to navigate the shifting corridors, the groaning swelled, almost deafening. The whispers grew clearer, forming disjointed phrases. Lose your way. Inside, they want me to give more. The geometry makes it stop, makes it better. The space, it pulls. These were the echoes of Whisperwind's former inhabitants, trapped in their final moments of coerced dislocation. He found a hidden chamber, surprisingly stable amidst the chaos, hidden behind a false wall that had shifted into place. On a dusty pedestal, under a thick layer of dust, was a stack of ancient blueprints drawn on brittle parchment. These weren't mundane plans. They were the original architectural schematics of Whisperwind Manse, signed by a name Elias recognized from historical texts: Malachi Thorne, his ancestor, the original architect. The early blueprints depicted a conventional manor, albeit with subtle, unusual angles. But the later schematics became increasingly disturbing. Malachi grew obsessed with a powerful, primordial entity he referred to only as the Weaver of Space, or the Void of Space. He believed it resided within the very foundations of the manor, a dormant consciousness of pure emptiness, drawn to the absence of defined form, to the void. He wrote of developing his spatial distortion engine, not to create grand spaces, but to feed the Weaver, to amplify his subjects' sense of disorientation, their fear and their longing for order, turning it into sustenance for the entity. The shifting, it is the conduit. Their minds, their forms, it is the nourishment. The void grows, and it will grant us eternal formlessness. His final entry was a chilling declaration. The ultimate formlessness is union. They will become one with the void, and I will join them, a final, willing sacrifice to eternal chaos. Elias dropped the blueprints, his blood running cold. His ancestor wasn't a visionary architect. He was a madman who had willingly sacrificed his family, and ultimately himself, to a monstrous entity. The disappearances weren't accidents. They were horrifying, orchestrated rituals. The manor wasn't just haunted. It was a living, breathing dimensional trap of dislocated realities. And the whispers were the lingering, tortured consciousness of Malachi's victims, trapped within the void of space, forced to perpetually reenact their final moments of disorientation. He noticed a hidden compartment in the pedestal. Inside, he found a peculiar, intricately carved compass, unlike any he'd ever seen. It was made of dark, unnaturally smooth obsidian, its needles spinning wildly, defying magnetic north. It vibrated with the same chilling groan he felt in the manor, and as it did, a single, iridescent teardrop of pure darkness formed on its surface, then vanished. It radiated an intense, suffocating cold and pulsed with the same chilling disorientation she felt in the manor. It was Malachi's original compass, the very source of the curse, the compass of unraveling. Elias now understood the horrifying truth. Alistair hadn't just stumbled upon a structural anomaly. He had come face to face with a conscious entity that fed on the fabric of reality, amplified by Malachi's twisted experiments. The void of space wasn't just an absence. It was a malevolent consciousness that sought to consume all who entered its dimensional trap. And the compass of unraveling in his hand was the key to this nightmare, the instrument that had bound countless souls to Whisperwind Manse, and the only hope of freeing his grandfather from its insidious grasp. The terrifying revelation in Malachi Thorne's blueprints, that he had intentionally created a dimensional trap of dislocated realities to feed the void of space using his subject's sanity and the compass of unraveling, left Elias reeling. The peculiar, intricately carved obsidian compass in his hand, its needle spinning wildly with the manor's chilling groan, was the very instrument of this monstrous ritual. To free Alistair, Elias had to understand, and perhaps even wield its power against the void of space itself. Elias clutched the compass of unraveling, its dark, smooth obsidian radiating an unnatural cold. The pervasive groaning and creaking felt stronger now, almost like a living presence responding to the artifact. The disembodied whispers grew louder, more frantic, their fragmented pleas for my way out, mingling with chilling, silent screams. Lose your way, stay. Don't leave. The void takes another form. He recalled Alistair's notes about spatial disruption and the idea of geometric inversion. If Malachi had used a specific spatial frequency to bind souls and feed the void of space, perhaps a counterfrequency, or an amplified version of its own resonance, could disrupt or even repel it. The compass of unraveling, he theorized, was clearly designed to interact with the manor's unique energetic properties. Elias's architectural knowledge, combined with Alistair's research, revealed that Malachi had been obsessed with the concept of impossible geometry, structures that defied the laws of physics. He believed the disruption of conventional space held the greatest power. The mass disappearances in Porthglen indicated that the void of space's influence extended beyond the manor walls, amplified by the psychic dimensional trap of the building. He found a secluded, empty chamber, its walls covered in ancient, frantic carvings of impossible angles and twisting pathways, as if someone had tried to draw their way out. He wanted to test the compass of unraveling's properties without drawing the full attention of the void of space. He placed the compass on a dusty, overturned table. As the compass spun its chilling, erratic course, a single, pure, iridescent teardrop of pure darkness formed on its surface, then vanished. The ambient groaning within the room instantly amplified, becoming a frantic, almost maddeningly silent undulation. The temperature dropped abruptly, and a faint, spectral image flickered in the corner. A terrified woman, disoriented, clawing at bricked-up walls that appeared and disappeared around her. The compass of unraveling was indeed amplifying the manor's inherent psychic resonance, making the trapped echoes more vivid, more present. Elias realized that the compass was not merely a device. It was a conduit, designed to funnel the collective stolen orientation and despair of the victims into the void of space. Its obsidian, he theorized, was likely crafted from a naturally resonant material, perhaps even a form of petrified void or crystalline darkness unique to this desolate cliff, capable of absorbing and amplifying psychic energy. He then tried to project a counterfrequency, a mental image of clear, rigid order, a jarring Euclidean truth, attempting to disrupt the compass's resonance, as Alistair had theorized. But as he did, the compass vibrated violently, almost jumping from the table, and the whispers intensified to a cacophony, threatening to overwhelm her senses. It was too strong, too deeply embedded in the manor's malevolent harmony. Just as he was about to give up, a new, distinct whisper cut through the chaos, clear and urgent, though fragmented by echoing effects. The true bearing, not the chaos, the heart of Whisperwind, below. Realign the core, before it unmakes the world. It was a new voice, unfamiliar, but undeniably real, clearer than any other echo he had heard. It was a warning, a desperate plea for help. Elias remembered Finn O'Malley's grim warning. It doesn't just quiet, it claims the very shape of things. And Alistair's terrifying message, the house, it's absorbing the very geometry of things. The void of space was not just an absence. It was a hungry entity, and its heart was somewhere deep within the manor, its core source of power, the true bearing. He found a hidden passage in the back of Malachi's workshop, concealed behind a rotating wall of bookshelves filled with forgotten astronomical charts. It led down into a series of damp, claustrophobic tunnels, clearly part of the manor's original, older foundations. The air grew colder, heavier, and the ubiquitous groaning intensified, vibrating through the very ground beneath his feet. The whispers became a continuous, low murmur, like a vast, unseen legion murmuring in profound, disoriented despair. As he descended deeper, he noticed the walls of the tunnel were not just stone. They were interspersed with large, jagged fragments of dark, shimmering, perfectly geometric crystal, glowing with a faint, internal light, pulsing in rhythm with the groaning. This was the natural spatial resonance of a manor, the geological nexus Malachi had exploited. This was the heart of Whisperwind, the true source of the void of space's power, amplified by the vast network of crystals beneath the building. Elias realized the compass of unraveling wasn't the ultimate source, but a smaller instrument crafted from the same material, meant to tap into and control this larger, terrifying energy. To stop the void of space, he couldn't just disrupt the compass. He had to confront the heart of Whisperwind itself, the true dimensional nexus that was silently devouring reality. The manor's whispers were leading him to its terrifying core, to the very source of its unending hunger for new forms. The only way to save Alistair, and perhaps the world, was to find the true north and force the shifting labyrinth into resonant order.